My dead twin's girlfriend substanced me and shaved off my beard so I'd look more like him. When I begged her to stop, she giggled and said, "You need to look more like yourself, Aaron." I just stared at her. That was 4 months ago. Yesterday, she collapsed, was declared mentally insane, and that was just the start. I lost my identical twin brother Aaron 2 years ago when he committed suicide. I didn't even know he was struggling until I found him dangling from the ceiling in my apartment. His girlfriend Maya came over 3 days later, holding takeout from the Thai place that Aaron loved. My alcoholic parents were too busy downing bottle after bottle to be around me, so she was the only one who got my pain. All of our time was spent watching old videos of Aaron doing stupid identical twin pranks in college. She kept saying how much it helped to see my face because it meant Aaron wasn't completely gone. But a month after the funeral, Maya came over with his cologne and jersey and asked if I could wear it. She said her therapist recommended it for processing grief. I agreed because I thought that maybe it could help me too. And as soon as I put it on, Maya's face lit up with a joy I'd never seen before. But it wasn't long before Maya tried to bring him back to life. She'd bring his exact breakfast order from the deli and get upset when I added hot sauce because Aaron hated spicy food. She'd physically adjust how I sat on the couch to match Aaron's slouch. But that wasn't even the worst part. We were sitting on the couch together watching a movie when she said it. "Aaron, can you pass me the popcorn?" she asked sweetly. I froze. That wasn't my name. It was my brother's. And since no one was around, I figured it was a good time to gently correct her. "Maya, I know you miss him, but I can't be his replacement. But you've always been the same person in 2 bodies," she responded. I swear I thought she was pranking me. But that's when she showed me dozens of photo collages she had made, with me and Aaron standing back to back. "See, you look so similar. This is proof that he's living through you." That evening while she slept, I called her parents. After the polite, "How are yous?" I gently hinted that Maya was showing symptoms of complex grief and PTSD. I figured they'd ask me more questions about her behavior, but that's when they responded with, "Our baby girl is suffering because of a decision your twin brother made. You owe it to her to keep her happy, by any means necessary." They hung up right after. Well, I already believed that his death was my fault, so their response felt like a confirmation of my worst fears. So when Maya practically moved into Aaron's room, I let her, and that's how we ended up together at 2 a.m., drinking Prosecco in silence and thinking about Aaron. And I guess I passed out on the couch, because when I woke up the next morning, my head was pounding and I had a mouth drier than the Sahara Desert. As I looked in the mirror, my heart dropped, because my previously full face of bearded hair was now completely clean shaven. I immediately shook Maya awake. "Maya, what the F is going on?" I asked over and over. When she finally gained consciousness, she looked at me and smiled. "Hey, handsome," she said, rubbing her hands on my face. "I missed you so much." I stared at her in disbelief. There was no way. "Maya, did you do this?" "Of course I did," she giggled. "You need to look more like yourself, Aaron." Before I could react, she jumped on top of me, and her lips landed on mine. I tried to push her back on the bed without hurting her, and she screamed at the top of her lungs. "Your body will remember me if you stop fighting it." Maya then proceeded to tear her own clothes off. I grabbed her wrists to stop her. "Maya, he's gone. It hurts me too, but we have to let him go. It's not your fault." She nodded like she understood, so I slowly let go and let her run to the bathroom, and I never saw her again, because when she came back, she had a pair of scissors in her hands. "Every time you deny him, you're unaliving him again," she said, while dragging the scissors across her skin. I backed away to dial 911 with trembling hands. I knew then that the old Maya had died with Aaron. The 911 operator told me to stay on the line, but Maya grabbed my phone and threw it across the room. "Aaron, stop being so dramatic," she said, while red dripped down her arms. "I'm just reminding you what happens when you pretend to be dead." I tried to move toward the door, but she blocked my path. "You're not leaving me again," she said, waving the scissors. "I already lost you once." "Maya, please," I begged. "I'm Alex. You know I'm Alex. Aaron is gone." She shook her head and pulled out her phone with her free hand. "I have proof you're lying." She showed me a video from the night before when I was passed out on the couch. In it, she was talking to me as Aaron for hours, and apparently, I'd been mumbling responses in my sleep. "See? You answer to Aaron when you're not fighting it," she said. "Your body knows who you really are." Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was the police. Maya positioned herself between me and the door, scissors glinting in the dim morning light. The police knocked harder. "Open up. We received a 911 call from this address." Maya's eyes locked onto mine. She pressed the scissors against her throat, just enough to draw a thin line of red. "Tell them everything's fine," she whispered, "or I'll show them the video where you admit you pushed Aaron." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't said anything like that, but the video she'd shown me proved I'd been responding in my sleep. What else had she made me say? The knocking intensified. "Police! We need to verify everyone's safety." Maya's hand trembled, pressing the scissors deeper. Blood trickled down her neck. "Say it, Aaron. Tell them we're fine." I moved toward the door, hands raised to show I meant no harm. Maya shifted with me, keeping herself positioned as a barrier. Her free hand clutched her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "Everything's okay," I called out, voice cracking. "Just a misunderstanding." "Sir, we need to see both parties. Please open the door." Maya shook her head violently. More blood appeared. She mouthed the words, "You pushed him." My mind raced. If I opened that door, she'd hurt herself worse. If I didn't, they'd break take it down anyway. Either way, I was trapped. She's hurting herself, I suddenly shouted. Please help! Maya's face contorted with rage. She screamed at the top of her lungs. He's trying to unalive me like he unalived Aaron. The door burst open. 2 officers rushed in, weapons drawn. They took in the scene. Maya collapsed on the floor, blood on her arms and neck, scissors clattering across the hardwood. Me standing over her with blood on my hands from when I'd tried to stop her earlier. Step away from her. Hands where we can see them. I raised my hands, backing against the wall. She did this to herself. She's having a mental health crisis. Maya curled into a ball, sobbing. He made me call him Aaron. He's been holding me captive, pretending to be his dead brother. The female officer knelt beside Maya, while her partner kept his hand on his weapon, eyes trained on me. Ma'am, are you hurt? We need to get you medical attention. Maya nodded weakly. He shaved his beard to look more like Aaron. He's sick. The male officer studied my face, taking in my freshly shaven appearance. His hand tightened on his firearm. Sir, I'm going to need you to turn around slowly and place your hands on the wall. This is insane. I'm Alex. She shaved me while I was passed out hammered. Hands on the wall. Now, I complied, spreading my palms against the cool plaster. The officer patted me down while his partner radioed for paramedics. Maya continued her performance, whimpering about how I'd trapped her here for days. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They immediately began treating Maya's wounds while she whispered to the female officer. I caught fragments. Captive, impersonating, dangerous. Maya's phone buzzed on the floor. The screen lit up, showing the video still queued. She made eye contact with me and smiled through her tears. Officers, there's a video on her phone, I said desperately. She recorded me while I was unconscious. She's been planning this. The female officer picked up the phone. Maya immediately started hyperventilating. Don't let him near it. He'll delete the evidence. Evidence of what? The officer asked. Of what he did to Aaron. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. He admitted everything last night. The officer played the video. I watched their faces change as they heard my slurred, unconscious responses to Maya's leading questions. She'd been careful with her phrasing, made it sound like I was confessing to something terrible. That's not what it looks like, I said. I was passed out. She was putting words in my mouth. The male officer cuffed me. Sir, you're being detained for questioning. You have the right to remain silent. Maya reached for the female officer's hand. There's more. Check his phone. He's been using Aaron's accounts, his email, his social media. He's trying to become him. My phone sat on the coffee table. I realized with growing horror that Maya had had access to it while I slept. What had she done? The paramedics insisted on taking both of us to the hospital. Maya for her injuries, me for evaluation. They said I was showing signs of shock. Maya insisted we ride in the same ambulance for safety. The officers agreed. Strapped to the gurney, I watched Maya's performance continue. She held the paramedic's hand, speaking in a small, frightened voice about her ordeal. The paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes, kept glancing at me with disgust. He seemed so normal at first, Maya said. After Aaron died, he was just Alex. But then he started changing, wearing Aaron's clothes, using his cologne, making me call him by his brother's name. The paramedic squeezed her hand. You're safe now. Maya turned to look at me. For just a moment, her mask slipped. I saw the calculating coldness underneath. Then she was back to playing the victim. I tried to leave so many times, but he said if I told anyone, he'd make it look like I was crazy, that no one would believe Aaron's grieving girlfriend over his own twin. We arrived at the hospital. They separated us immediately. Maya to treatment, me to psychiatric evaluation. The officers stationed themselves outside my room. Through the small window, I saw a commotion in the hallway. Maya's parents had arrived. Her mother rushed past my door, shouting loud enough for everyone to hear. Thank God you saved her from him, officers. We knew something was wrong when she stopped answering our calls. That was a lie. They'd hung up on me when I'd called about Maya's behavior. But who would believe me now? A nurse entered to take my vitals. She avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable. Word had already spread. In her mind, I was the disturbed twin who'd held his brother's girlfriend captive. My phone buzzed with notifications. The officer had it in an evidence bag, but I could see the screen lighting up repeatedly. Text after text. I caught a glimpse of one from a mutual friend. Dude, why is Maya posting about being rescued? What happened? Maya was already controlling the narrative. By the time I got out of here, if I got out, everyone would have her version of events. The psychiatrist arrived an hour later. Dr. Patel, according to his badge. He sat across from me with a clipboard, studying me like I was a specimen. I'm going to ask you some questions. Please answer honestly. My name is Alex, I said immediately. Not Aaron. Aaron is dead. He unalived himself 2 years ago. Dr. Patel made a note. Tell me about your relationship with Maya. I explained everything. Aaron's death, Maya's grief, her increasingly delusional behavior, how she'd shaved me while I was unconscious, how she'd staged this entire scene. He nodded along, making occasional notes. When I finished, he set down his pen. Alex, Maya's parents have provided some concerning information. They say you've been calling their home pretending to be Aaron, that you've been accessing Aaron's bank accounts. That's not true. I called them once as myself to express concern about Maya. They have phone records showing multiple calls. My heart sank. Maya must have used my phone while I slept. How long had she been planning this? She had access to my phone. She could have made calls pretending to be you, pretending to be Aaron. Dr. Patel's tone was skeptical. That seems rather elaborate. Everything I said sounded like paranoid rambling. Maya had thought of everything. The evaluation continued for another hour. By the end, I could see Dr. Patel had made up his mind. I was either delusional or dangerous, possibly both. They admitted me for a 72-hour hold. For my own safety, they said, and for Maya's. That night, lying in the narrow hospital bed, I stared at the ceiling and tried to make sense of what had happened. Maya had orchestrated this perfectly. But why? What was her endgame? The answer came the next morning when my parents arrived. They stumbled in, reeking of alcohol despite the early hour. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe it's better this way, she slurred. If you want to be Aaron so bad, he was always the good one anyway. My father nodded along. Aaron wouldn't have done this to that poor girl. They left after 5 minutes. Their son was dead, and now they were losing the spare. But they were too deep in their bottles to care. The social worker came by that afternoon. She had news that made my blood run cold. Maya is claiming she's pregnant, she said gently. She says it's Aaron's baby, that you've been forcing her to pretend the baby is yours. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity was too much. Aaron's been dead for 2 years. How could she possibly be pregnant with his baby? The social worker's expression was carefully neutral. She says she froze his genetic material before he died, that you've been trying to steal your brother's legacy. Maya had thought of everything. Every lie built on a foundation of half-truths and twisted facts, and I was trapped in the center of her web. That evening, a different nurse brought my dinner. She was older, with gray streaks in her hair and knowing eyes. As she set down the tray, she leaned close. I've seen this before, she whispered. Not exactly this, but close enough. Document everything, every interaction, every claim. Write it all down. You'll need it. Before I could respond, she was gone. I spent that night writing, recording every detail I could remember about Maya's behavior over the past month, the way she'd gradually inserted herself into my life, how she'd manipulated my grief, the slow escalation from quirky coping mechanisms to full-blown delusion. By morning, I had pages of notes, but who would read them? Who would believe the ramblings of a man accused of impersonating his dead twin? The answer came in an unexpected form. My lawyer, a public defender named Sarah Chen, actually listened. She read through my notes without interrupting, occasionally asking for clarification. There are inconsistencies in Maya's story, she said finally. The timeline doesn't add up, but she's very convincing, and she has evidence. Fabricated evidence. Prove it. That was the challenge. How could I prove Maya had manipulated everything when she'd been so careful, when she'd turned my own grief and guilt against me? Sarah promised to investigate, to look for holes in Maya's story, but she warned me it would take time. And meanwhile, Maya was out there, free to spin whatever narrative she wanted. The next day brought a new revelation. The police had searched my apartment. They'd found Aaron's belongings everywhere. Clothes in my closet, his toiletries in my bathroom, his photos on my walls. I didn't put those there, I insisted. Maya must have— When? The detective interrupted. When did she have time to redecorate your entire apartment? I realized with growing horror that she'd been doing it gradually, every time she came over, moving things bit by bit. I'd been too hammered, too lost in grief to notice. The detective showed me photos from my laptop, browser history showing searches for how to access deceased person's accounts, and legal name change after death of twin. Emails sent from my account to Aaron's old workplace, asking about returning to his job. I didn't do any of this. Then who did? The answer was obvious, but saying it out loud made me sound completely paranoid. Maya had played the long game, and she'd played it perfectly. On my last day of the hold, Dr. Patel delivered his assessment. Possible dissociative disorder, complicated grief manifesting as identity confusion, recommended outpatient treatment, and continued monitoring. I was being released, but not free. There was a restraining order. I couldn't go within 500 feet of Maya, couldn't contact her or her family, couldn't access any of Aaron's accounts, not that I ever had. Sarah met me at discharge. She had news, but not the kind I'd hoped for. Maya's story is gaining traction. She's given an interview to a local blog about surviving domestic violence. She's very sympathetic. My stomach turned. What about the inconsistencies you mentioned? Still there, but she has explanations for everything. And Alex, she has a pregnancy test. It's positive. I sank into the chair. That's impossible. She's lying about the frozen sperm. Aaron never did that. Can you prove it? I couldn't. Aaron was dead. The only person who could confirm or deny Maya's claim was gone. Sarah drove me to a motel. My apartment was still a crime scene, and even when it was released, my landlord had already started eviction proceedings. Too much drama, he'd said. Too much negative attention. That night, alone in a dingy motel room, I finally understood the full scope of what Maya had done. She hadn't just tried to resurrect Aaron through me. She'd destroyed Alex in the process. I had no job. They'd fired me for missing work. No home. No friends. They all believed Maya's story. No identity. In everyone's eyes, I was the disturbed twin who'd tried to steal his brother's life. My phone had been returned, wiped clean by the police forensics team. The first thing I did was check social media. Big mistake. Maya's posts were everywhere. Artistic black and white photos of her injuries, heartfelt captions about survival and healing, hundreds of comments offering support, calling me a monster, praising her bravery. One post stopped me cold. It was an ultrasound image. Aaron's last gift, the caption read. His brother tried to take everything from me, but he couldn't take this. The comments were full of people marveling at the miracle. How wonderful that she'd had the foresight to preserve Aaron's legacy. How terrible that his twin had tried to steal even that. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still functional, like me. The next few days blurred together. I tried to find work, but every employer Googled me. I tried to find an apartment, but landlords ran background checks. Maya's narrative had poisoned every aspect of my life. A week after my release, I saw her. I was at a grocery store, buying ramen and cheap beer with my dwindling cash. She was in the produce section, examining avocados. Her belly showed the slightest curve, too much for a pregnancy that was supposedly only a few weeks along, according to her timeline. She saw me at the same moment. Her eyes widened in perfect fear. She dropped the avocados and backed away, hand protective over her stomach. "Help!" she called out. "He's violating the restraining order!" I turned and ran. Behind me, I heard people shouting, someone calling 911. I abandoned my groceries and sprinted for the exit. I made it to my car, but I knew it was over. They had security footage, multiple witnesses. I'd violated the order, even if by accident. Sarah called an hour later. "Turn yourself in. We'll explain it was a chance encounter." But who would believe that? In their story, I was stalking her, obsessed with her. This just confirmed their narrative. I sat in that motel room, watching the sun set through grimy windows, and made a decision. I couldn't fight Maya's story, not when she'd laid the groundwork so carefully, not when everyone already believed her, but I could find the truth. Aaron had unalived himself. That was a fact. But why? He'd never shown signs of depression, never talked about ending his life. Something had driven him to that point, and Maya had been with him in the weeks before his death. I opened my laptop and started searching, not for anything illegal or invasive, just public records, social media posts from 2 years ago, news articles, anything that might shed light on what had really happened. What I found made my blood run cold. There were posts from Aaron in the weeks before his death, posts I'd never seen because I'd been too busy with work, too confident that my twin was fine. Posts about feeling trapped, about someone not accepting boundaries, about fear. They were vague, but the timeline matched up with when he'd started dating Maya. I dug deeper, found comments from mutual friends asking if he was okay. His responses were evasive, but troubling. Just dealing with some stuff. It's complicated. Sometimes love isn't enough. Then, a week before his death, the posts stopped. His social media went dark. I'd assumed he was just busy, happy in his new relationship. Now I wondered if he'd been silenced. I called Sarah, told her what I'd found. She listened, but sounded skeptical. "Alex, I understand you're looking for answers, but Aaron is gone. We can't ask him what happened. But this shows a pattern. Maya's behavior with me. What if it wasn't the first time? What if isn't evidence? And frankly, pursuing this line of thinking makes you look more obsessed, not less." She was right, but I couldn't let it go. Aaron deserved better than to have his death become a tool in Maya's delusion. That night, I dreamed of my brother. He stood in my motel room, looking exactly as he had in life. Same crooked smile, same way of standing with his weight on his left foot. "You can't save me," he said, "but you can save yourself." I woke with tears on my face and a decision made. I would stop fighting Maya's narrative about me. Let her have her story. Let her have her fake pregnancy and her sympathetic supporters. But I would find out what had really happened to Aaron. Not for revenge, not to clear my name. For him, the investigation would have to be careful, quiet. I couldn't afford another restraining order violation. Couldn't give Maya more ammunition. But somewhere out there was the truth about why my twin had chosen to die. And maybe, just maybe, that truth would set us both free. I opened a new document on my laptop, started writing everything I remembered about Aaron's last days. Every conversation, every text, every sign I'd missed. It was time to stop being the victim of Maya's story and start uncovering the real one. The story of Aaron and Maya, of love turned to obsession, of manipulation disguised as grief, of how my brother had tried to escape and chosen the only way out he could see, and how Maya was now trying to trap me in the same web, using my own guilt and grief as the threads. But I wasn't Aaron. I wouldn't make his choice. I would survive this, document everything, find the truth for both of us. The motel room became my makeshift investigation center. I pinned Aaron's old photos to the wall, created timelines on scraps of paper, and mapped out every interaction I could remember between him and Maya. My laptop screen glowed with archived social media posts, each one a breadcrumb in a trail I should have followed 2 years ago. 3 days into my search, I found something. A comment on Aaron's Instagram from someone named Jake, dated 2 weeks before his death. "Bro, you okay? That thing at the coffee shop looked intense." Aaron had replied with just, "It's handled." I messaged Jake through a new account, explaining who I was. His response came within minutes. "Holy poop, Alex. I've been following Maya's posts. None of it made sense. Can we meet?" We arranged to meet at a park outside the restraining order radius. Jake arrived looking nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. He sat on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining distance like I might be contagious. That day at the coffee shop, he started without preamble. Maya was different. She kept touching Aaron, adjusting his clothes, fixing his hair. When he tried to leave, she grabbed his wrist so hard it left marks, said something about how he couldn't abandon her like everyone else. My hands clenched. What did Aaron do? He looked terrified. I'd never seen him like that. He kept apologizing to her, trying to calm her down. She was crying, saying he was all she had left. Jake paused. There was something she kept repeating. "You can't leave me like Lily did." Who's Lily? No idea. But after that day, Aaron stopped hanging out, stopped answering texts. I figured they'd worked it out. out. I thanked Jake and left quickly, aware that any prolonged contact could be twisted into harassment. Back at the motel, I searched for information about Lily in connection with Maya. What I found sent ice through my veins. Lily Chen, Maya's younger sister, died by sewer slide 5 years ago at age 19. The obituary mentioned she was survived by her parents and older sister Maya. There was a photo. Lily looked startlingly like Maya. Same delicate features, same dark eyes. I dug deeper, found a memorial page where friends had shared memories. One comment stood out. Lily was trying to distance herself from toxic family dynamics. She was so close to freedom. The parallels were too obvious to ignore. Someone trying to leave, someone who looked like Maya, someone who chose death as their escape. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Alex? A woman's voice, elderly and trembling. Who is this? I'm Mrs. Patterson. I live next door to Aaron's apartment. I saw the news about what that girl is saying about you. It's not right. My heart raced. What do you mean? I have security cameras. Old habit from when the neighborhood was rougher. They picked up things. Maya visiting at odd hours. Arguments the night before. She trailed off. Can I see the footage? I can't get involved officially, but if you happen to find a flash drive in your mailbox at the motel, well, I can't control where things end up. The line went dead. 2 hours later, I found a small flash drive tucked under a pizza flyer in the motel's mail area. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Time-stamped videos showing Maya arriving at Aaron's apartment at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. on different nights. In one, Aaron was visible in the doorway, trying to close the door while she wedged her foot in the gap. Another showed her sitting in her car outside for hours, just watching. The final video was dated the night before Aaron died. Maya arrived at 11 p.m. carrying a bag. She left at 3 a.m. The bag looked emptier. I copied everything to multiple drives, uploaded to secure cloud storage. This was evidence, but of what? Stalking? Harassment? Or something worse? Sarah called the next morning. We have a problem. Maya's filed a civil suit. Emotional distress, loss of consortium, intentional infliction of emotional harm. She's asking for damages. She's suing me? For what? For impersonating Aaron and traumatizing her. Alex, her lawyer is good. Really good. Her parents are funding this. Of course they were. The same parents who told me to keep their daughter happy by any means necessary. There's more, Sarah continued. She submitted evidence of her pregnancy. Medical records showing she's 14 weeks along. I did the math. 14 weeks would mean conception happened around the time she started staying in my apartment. After she'd begun calling me Aaron. After she'd started her delusion. Sarah, that timeline doesn't match her story about frozen sperm. I know. But she's now claiming the stress of your impersonation caused her to misremember dates. That trauma affected her memory. Maya was adapting her lies, evolving them to fit new evidence. Every time I thought I'd found a contradiction, she had an explanation ready. That afternoon, I received an email from Aaron's former employer. They were sorry to inform me that someone had been calling, claiming to be Aaron's twin, asking about his final timesheet and any personal belongings. They wanted to verify if this was legitimate. I hadn't made any such calls. Maya was still actively framing me, even now. I called the company back, explained the situation. The HR representative sounded sympathetic but cautious. Actually, Mr. Thompson, there's something you should know. Aaron submitted a formal complaint 2 weeks before he passed, about someone harassing him at work. Who? He didn't name names, but he mentioned a girlfriend who wouldn't accept boundaries, who kept showing up during his shifts. Security had to escort her out twice. More pieces of the puzzle. I asked if they still had the complaint on file. They did, but couldn't release it without a subpoena. Another dead end that pointed toward the truth, but couldn't prove it. That evening, while reviewing the security footage again, I noticed something. In one frame, as Maya was leaving Aaron's apartment, something fell from her bag. Small, white, rectangular. She quickly picked it up, but the camera caught it. I enhanced the image as much as possible. It looked like a prescription bottle. On impulse, I called the pharmacy where Aaron used to fill his prescriptions, pretended to be calling about my own medications, casually mentioned my brother. Oh, Aaron, the pharmacist said, her voice softening. Such a tragedy. He was just here the week before, filling his new prescription. New prescription? For anxiety. Said he was having trouble sleeping. Poor thing looked exhausted. Aaron had never had anxiety issues before, never needed medication. What had changed in those final weeks? I thought about the white bottle falling from Maya's bag, about Aaron's sudden need for anxiety medication, about how he'd died. The pieces were forming a picture I didn't want to see. My investigation was interrupted by a knock on the motel door. Through the peephole, I saw a process server, the civil suit papers. I accepted them, read through Maya's claims. According to her filing, I'd caused her severe emotional trauma, endangered her pregnancy, and violated her deceased boyfriend's memory. The damages she was seeking matched Aaron's life insurance payout almost exactly. She wanted the money. Everything else, the performance, the pregnancy claim, the elaborate frame job, it all came down to money. But there was something else in the filing. Maya claimed to have video evidence of me practicing being Aaron. Footage of me in his clothes, mimicking his mannerisms, studying his photos. I knew exactly what she meant. The night she drugged me, she must have posed me, dressed me, recorded me while I was unconscious, building her evidence cache for this exact moment. Sarah met me at a diner to discuss strategy. She looked tired, stressed. Alex, I need to be honest. This case case isn't looking good. She has documentation, witnesses, evidence. You have theories and suspicions. I have the security footage from Mrs. Patterson, obtained illegally, inadmissible. The pharmacy records showing Aaron's sudden anxiety medication proves nothing except that he was struggling before his death. Every piece of evidence I'd found was either inadmissible or could be explained away. Maya had thought of everything. What do you suggest? I asked. Settle. Give her what she wants. Walk away. She wants Aaron's life insurance money. Then give it to her. It's just money, Alex. Your freedom is worth more. But it wasn't just about money. It was about Aaron, about the truth, about not letting Maya win. That night, I made a decision that would either save me or destroy me completely. I created a new social media account under a fake name and started reaching out to Maya's past. College friends, high school classmates, anyone who might have known her before Aaron. The responses trickled in slowly. Most people remembered Maya as sweet but intense, clingy, the type who didn't handle rejection well. Then I got a message that changed everything. I dated Maya for 3 months in college, the message read. It ended when she started insisting I was her sister Lily reincarnated. She'd make me wear Lily's clothes, style my hair like hers. When I tried to break up, she threatened to hurt herself. I had to transfer schools to get away. The sender included screenshots of old messages from Maya. The language was eerily familiar, the same phrases she'd used with me about Aaron living through me. This was her pattern. Find someone who reminded her of a lost loved one. Try to resurrect the dead through the living. And when that failed, I thought about Aaron's anxiety medication, about Maya's late-night visits, about the bag she'd carried in the night before he died. What if Aaron hadn't unalived himself? What if he'd been driven to it? Or worse. My phone rang. Sarah's number. Alex, where are you? At the motel. Why? Maya's filed an emergency injunction. Says you've been stalking her online, contacting her friends. There's a warrant. You need to turn yourself in. My blood ran cold. How did she know about my investigation? I'd been so careful, used fake accounts. Then I realized she'd been monitoring me somehow, watching my digital footprint. Maybe she had access to my devices in ways I didn't understand. Sarah, I found evidence of a pattern. She's done this before. It doesn't matter right now. You need to come in before they arrest you. I agreed to meet her at the police station in an hour. But first, I had one more thing to do. I compiled everything I'd found, the security footage, the messages from Maya's ex, the pharmacy information, the timeline discrepancies, created multiple copies, uploaded to various cloud services, emailed to Sarah and to myself. If I was going down, at least the truth would be preserved somewhere. As I prepared to leave, my laptop dinged. New email. The sender made my heart stop. Aaron's email address. The subject line, stop looking or she'll do to you what she did to me. The message was simple. Check the news tomorrow. My hands shook. Someone had access to Aaron's email. Maya, Orient. No, Aaron was dead. I'd found him myself. This was just another manipulation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. I arrived at the police station to find chaos. News vans everywhere. Reporters shouting questions. Through the crowd, I saw Maya giving an interview. Tears streaming down her face, hand on her growing belly. I just wanted to move on, she was saying, but he won't let me. He's obsessed with becoming Aaron, with taking his place. I'm terrified for my baby. The cameras turned to me as I approached. Questions flew like arrows. Why are you impersonating your dead brother? How long have you been stalking Ms. Chen? Do you really believe you're Aaron? I kept my head down. Let Sarah guide me inside. The booking process was a blur. Fingerprints, photos, forms. The charges were serious. Cyberstalking, harassment, violation of a restraining order. In the holding cell, I finally had time to think. Maya had orchestrated this perfectly. Every move I made to uncover the truth just made me look more obsessed, more dangerous. But that email from Aaron's account nagged at me. Check the news tomorrow. What was going to happen tomorrow? Sarah bailed me out after 6 hours. As we left, she handed me a tablet. You need to see this. It was a news article, published while I was in custody. Exclusive. The disturbing diary of a twin's obsession. The article featured excerpts from a diary allegedly written by me, detailing my plans to become Aaron and reclaim what's mine. The handwriting looked like mine. The content was damning. I didn't write this, I said. I know, Sarah replied, but it doesn't matter. Public opinion is set. You're the villain in this story now. We sat in her car in the parking garage. Rain pelted the windshield. Everything felt hopeless. There's something else, Sarah said quietly. I did some digging of my own. Maya's parents have a history of covering up their daughter's problems. Lily's death was ruled a sewer slide, but there were questions, inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? Lily had been trying to get a restraining order against Maya, said her sister was unstable, dangerous. The order was denied 2 days before Lily died. Another piece of the puzzle, but still not enough to build a case. What do I do? I asked. Honestly, run, leave town, start over somewhere else. Let Maya have her victory. But I couldn't. Not with Aaron's memory at stake. Not with the truth still buried. That night, back at the motel, I found another flash drive in my room. No note, no explanation, just the drive. On it was a single video file. Security footage from inside Aaron's apartment, dated the night he died. I watched in horror as the truth finally revealed itself. Maya entering with her bag. Aaron already unconscious on the couch, drugged, just like I had been. Maya setting up the scene, positioning things carefully, taking photos, writing something, a note, in Aaron's handwriting. Then the worst part. Maya waking Aaron just enough for him to be conscious, conscious, but not fully aware, leading him, guiding him following, trusting, confused. The video cut off before the end, but I knew what came next. Aaron hadn't unalived himself. He'd been murdered, and Maya had made it look like Sewers lied. I sat in that dingy motel room, staring at the screen, finally understanding the full horror of what I was facing. Maya wasn't just delusional. She was a killer, and she was setting me up to be her next victim, either literally or figuratively. The email from Aaron's account made sense now. Someone else knew the truth. Someone with access to evidence. Someone who wanted me to stop digging before Maya decided I was too much of a threat. But who and why warn me instead of going to the police? My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Meet me at the old warehouse on Pier 47. Midnight. Come alone. Someone who knew Aaron. It was obviously a trap. Everything about this screamed danger, but I was out of options, out of allies, out of time. Maya had won every round so far. She'd destroyed my reputation, my freedom, my future. She'd unalived my brother and was now carrying some other man's child while claiming it was Aaron's. I had two choices: run and let her win, or face whatever was waiting at that warehouse. I made my decision. At 11:45 p.m., I left the motel. The city was quiet, rain-slicked streets reflecting neon lights. I drove carefully, aware that any traffic violation could land me back in jail. The warehouse loomed dark against the harbor skyline. No cars in the parking lot, no signs of life. I parked and waited. 11:58, 11:59. At exactly midnight, a figure emerged from the shadows. My heart stopped. It was impossible. Completely impossible. But there he stood, thinner than before, scarred but alive. Aaron. I stared at the figure in the shadows. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. The height, the build, even the way he held his shoulders, everything screamed Aaron. But Aaron was dead. I'd found his body myself. The figure stepped into the dim light from a distant street lamp. Not Aaron. The face was similar but wrong. Narrower jaw, different nose. The man raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. I'm Marcus, he said. Maya's ex from college. The one who messaged you. My knees nearly buckled with relief and disappointment. Of course it wasn't Aaron. Dead men don't come back. Why the cryptic message? I asked, still wary. Because Maya monitors everything. She has software on your devices. I had to make sure you'd come alone. Marcus glanced around nervously. We don't have much time. She'll know you're here soon. He handed me a thick envelope. Inside were photos, documents, medical records. My hands shook as I flipped through them. 3 years ago, Maya targeted my roommate. Marcus explained quickly. Said he was her sister Lily reborn. When he tried to leave, she helped him along. Made it look like an OD. I couldn't prove anything, but I've been documenting her patterns ever since. The papers showed a clear progression. Maya's first victim after Lily, a girl from high school who looked like her sister. Then Marcus's roommate. Then Aaron. Now me. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked. With what? Suspicions? Circumstantial evidence? Her parents have money, connections. They've been cleaning up after her for years. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed me a text. She messaged me yesterday, said she's found someone new. Jake's younger brother, 15 years old. My blood ran cold. The cycle was accelerating. There's more, Marcus continued. That video you found of Aaron's last night? I sent it. My friend works building maintenance. He pulled it from their backup server before Maya's parents had it wiped. How do they keep getting away with this? Small town. Her mom went to school with the police chief. Her dad employs half the city council's kids. But there's one detective who's been asking questions. Detective Rodriguez. She's new, transferred from the city. No local connections. Marcus handed me a business card. She's expecting your call. But Alex, you need to be careful. Maya's escalating. The pregnancy thing? She pulled the same stunt with me. Even bought a fake belly online. But this time, she's taking it further. My phone buzzed. Sarah calling. I answered. Alex, where are you? Maya just filed another report. Says you threatened her at the grocery store. There's security footage of you running. I was running away from her. Doesn't matter how it looks. You need to come in. Now. I hung up. Marcus was already backing away. That's my cue. Call Rodriguez. Tonight. And Alex, whatever you do, don't let Maya near Jake's brother. He melted back into the shadows. I stood alone in the empty lot, envelope clutched in my hand, finally understanding the full scope of Maya's sickness. Back at the motel, I spread Marcus's evidence across the bed. 3 victims before Aaron. All young men who resembled someone Maya had lost. All dead within 6 months of meeting her. All ruled suicides or accidents. I called Detective Rodriguez. She answered on the second ring. I've been expecting your call, Mr. Thompson. Can you come to the station? I have a restraining order. I'm not supposed to. I'll handle that. Side entrance, 20 minutes. The station was mostly empty at this hour. Rodriguez met me at the door. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no wedding ring. She led me to a small conference room. I've been investigating the Chen family for 6 months, she said without preamble. Started when I noticed a pattern in the death records. Your brother wasn't the first. She laid out her own files. They matched Marcus's documentation, but went deeper. Financial records showing Maya's parents paying off families. Medical records from Maya's multiple hospitalizations. A paper trail of destruction spanning years. Why hasn't anyone stopped her? Money, influence, and she's smart. Never leaves direct evidence. Always has plausible explanations. Rodriguez leaned forward. But you're different. You're still alive. And now she's made mistakes. The pregnancy? Among other things. I pulled her medical records. She had a hysterectomy 3 years ago. Complications from a botched termination of pregnancy. She can't have children. The fake pregnancy made sense now. now. Just another manipulation tool. What about Jake's brother? Rodriguez's expression darkened. That's why we need to move fast. She's already started grooming him. His parents think she's helping him through grief counseling. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I showed Rodriguez. Answer it. Speakerphone. I did. Maya's voice filled the room, sweet and poisonous. Hi, Aaron. I know you're confused. The medication I gave you that night, it can cause memory problems. But don't worry. I'll help you remember who you are. Maya, I'm not. Jake's brother looks just like you did at 15. Same eyes, same smile. He even laughs like you. Her voice dropped. But don't worry. You'll always be my first choice. Come home, and I'll leave him alone. The line went dead. Rodriguez was already on her radio, dispatching units to Jake's house. We need more, she said. The fake pregnancy isn't enough. Her parents will claim mental illness, get her hospitalized for a few months. She'll be out and hunting again within a year. What about the video of Aaron's last night? Inadmissible, obtained illegally. But she paused, thinking, if we could get her to confess, on record. She's too smart for that. Maybe, maybe not. She's escalating, getting sloppy. The fake pregnancy, targeting a minor, calling you directly. She's losing control. Rodriguez outlined a plan. Risky, but possible. I'd meet with Maya, wearing a wire, try to get her to admit what she'd done to Aaron, what she planned to do to Jake's brother. It's dangerous, she warned. We'll be monitoring, but if she suspects anything, I thought about Aaron, about Jake's 15-year-old brother, about all the victims still to come if Maya wasn't stopped. I'll do it. The next morning, Sarah met me at the courthouse. She wasn't happy about the plan, but agreed to help set up the meeting. Legal mediation, she called it. A chance to settle the civil suit out of court. Maya agreed immediately. Of course she did. Another chance to play with her toy. The mediation was scheduled for that afternoon. Rodriguez's team spent the morning prepping me. Where to sit, how to steer the conversation, what questions to ask. The wire was tiny, almost invisible, but it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Sarah and I arrived early. The conference room was small, windowless, perfect for recording. Rodriguez's team was in a van outside, listening. Maya entered with her lawyer and parents. She'd dressed the part. Conservative suit, minimal makeup, fake baby bump prominent under her jacket. The grieving girlfriend seeking justice. Her father glared at me. Her mother wouldn't make eye contact. But Maya smiled, that same sweet smile she'd worn while holding scissors to her throat. The lawyers talked. Terms, conditions, settlement amounts. I barely heard them. My focus was entirely on Maya. Finally, the lawyers stepped out to draft paperwork. Maya's parents followed, her father muttering about needing a smoke. We were alone. Maya's mask dropped instantly. You look tired, Aaron. I'm not Aaron. She laughed. You say that, but your body remembers. The way you're sitting right now, that's exactly how Aaron sat when he was nervous. I forced myself to relax. Tell me about Lily. Her eyes flashed. What about her? She was the first, wasn't she? The first one who tried to leave you. Lily didn't try to leave. She was confused, thought she needed space. Maya's hand went to her stomach, rubbing the fake bump. Just like Aaron was confused, but I helped them both find peace. My heart pounded. This was it. How did you help Aaron? He was suffering. All those anxiety medications, the insomnia. He couldn't live without me, but he was too proud to admit it. She leaned forward. So I made it easier for him. A few extra pills in his drink, just enough to make him compliant. Then I showed him how to tie the knots. He was so peaceful at the end. Grateful even. And now Jake's brother? Her smile widened. Tommy's special. He has Aaron's soul. I can see it when he looks at me. He just needs time to remember. You're going to unalive him too. Unalive? She looked genuinely offended. I don't unalive anyone. I help them transition. When they're ready to leave this form and find a new one. Her hand moved to her belly again. Like this baby. It's Lily, finally coming back to me. Maya, you can't have children. You had a hysterectomy. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. Then she laughed. Medical records can be faked. Doctors can be wrong. I know what's growing inside me. She stood, moved closer. But you're right about one thing. Tommy isn't Aaron. You are. You've always been Aaron. The other one, Alex, he was just the spare, the shadow. She reached for my face. I caught her wrist. Don't touch me. See? Even your anger is exactly like his. She pulled free, backed toward the door. The offer stands. Come home, be who you really are, and Tommy stays safe. Keep fighting, and I'll have to help him transition. Your choice, Aaron. The door opened. Her parents and lawyers returned. Maya's mask snapped back into place. The grieving girlfriend, the victim. But Rodriguez had heard everything. The arrest happened that evening. Maya was at Jake's house, sitting with Tommy, showing him photo albums of Aaron. Rodriguez's team moved in quietly, professionally. Maya didn't resist. Even as they cuffed her, she kept that serene smile, whispering to Tommy that she'd see him soon, that Aaron would explain everything. Her parents tried to intervene. Lawyers appeared within minutes. But Rodriguez had done her homework. The confession, combined with the medical records and witness statements, was enough for an arrest warrant. The trial would take months. Maya's parents would hire the best defense attorneys money could buy. They'd claim mental illness, temporary insanity, grief-induced psychosis. Maybe they'd even win. But Tommy was safe. That's what mattered. I sat in the police station until dawn, giving my statement. Sarah stayed with me, making sure my rights were protected. Outside, the city woke up, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded. What happens now? I asked Rodriguez as she walked me out. Now we build the case. Make sure she can't hurt anyone else. She paused. You did good, Alex. Aaron would be proud. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The next few weeks blurred together. Court appearances, depositions, psychiatric evaluations. evaluations. Maya's parents launched a media campaign, painting her as a victim of grief. But Rodriguez's case was solid. Other victims' families came forward. Marcus testified. Mrs. Patterson provided her security footage. Even Jake, shaken by how close his brother had come to danger, agreed to testify. Maya was denied bail. Too much risk of flight, the judge ruled. Her parents raged, threatened lawsuits, but for once their money couldn't buy their way out. I started seeing a therapist, a real one, not the grief counselor Maya had manipulated. Slowly, I began to process not just Aaron's death, but everything that came after. The motel room gave way to a small studio apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I found work at a warehouse, night shifts that paid the bills while I figured out what came next. Jake reached out one day. Coffee at a small shop downtown. He looked older, worn down by the trial. "Tommy's doing okay," he said, "seeing a counselor, asking about you. Tell him I said hi. He wants to thank you for stopping her." I shook my head. "Just keep him safe. That's thanks enough." We parted ways outside the shop. I watched him go, then turned and walked in the opposite direction. The city stretched before me, full of strangers who didn't know my story, who saw just another guy heading home from coffee. 6 months later, the trial ended. Maya was found guilty on multiple counts. The sentence was 25 years, with mandatory psychiatric treatment. Her parents' influence couldn't save her from consequences this time.